Hello and welcome to Friday, February 7th. Today we're going to talk about the String Builder class. I've created a very simple WinForms application with a button, and the real magic happens on the button click event. Let's talk about the problem with strings and why you need a String Builder class. First of all, strings are what are termed as immutable, which means that once the space in memory is allocated for a given string, that it cannot be changed. So obviously, whenever you get into a scenario, whenever you're concatenating strings together, what actually has to happen behind the scenes is the .NET Framework creates a scratchpad variable that will hold both the original value and the new concatenated value together. So what you're doing is creating a new instance of the string object every single time that you do any manipulation to a string. So in the following example that I've got here, what you might innocently be doing is something like this. Dim sum text to string, and you initialize that value to learn. But what happens whenever you concatenate the Visual Studio.NET part onto that, using any kind of operators that you choose to, I just used a shortened syntax here. What actually happens is this second section, or something like it anyway, where you're actually creating a second variable, which I have just for pseudocode purposes have called some text result a string, that collects the original value, the learn, plus the Visual Studio.NET, and then it has to reset the sum text back to the scratchpad or the sum text result variable so that I can deliver it back to you in the format that you expected. So this might not be such a big deal if you're doing just a few string concatenations or doing a little bit of a manipulation on a string once in a while. But if you have an application where you're doing a lot of string manipulation, where you're changing or replacing values within a given string, you may want to consider using the string builder, because the string builder object is mutable, meaning that the space that's allocated in memory can be changed. Let me pull this up here. Got my notes, my cheat sheet. So the obvious result of this is that whenever you go to concatenate two strings together, there's no behind-the-scenes creating of a scratchpad variable, a new instance of the string object or the string builder object. It just changes the size in memory for the string builder object, which is called the capacity, in order to fit the value in to memory. Now there's a little bit of a gotcha even on the string builder, and that is this. Once the capacity is reached, so say for example you start out with a capacity of 16 and your original value is 5 characters long. Once you hit that 16 mark by concatenating let's say Visual Studio.NET, which is the example that I've got here, onto it, it will automatically double the capacity of that instance of the string builder object. So for example, if you had a string builder whose capacity is 16 but whose length is only 5, and you add, let's say, another 15 characters, now the length only really needs to be 20 characters long, but what happens is it doubles the capacity of that variable and makes it 32. So now again, in a small situation where you're only doing a few small things, that's not a big deal. But what if you had a string in the string builder that contained the body of a email message that you're sending out, and you want to concatenate just one or two more words that put you over the top of the capacity? Though that one or two word hit might actually double the entire size in memory that is allocated just due to this little quirk. So what tool they've given you to kind of circumvent this is this ensure capacity. What you can either do, like I've done right here, is check the current capacity, and if it's less than something, then add on just enough in order to increase the capacity so that it will contain enough size to store that value. Or you can just use this ensure capacity method in the string builder object in order to do exactly the same thing. So let's take a look at some of the source code here and actually run this. I just basically do an initialized value of learn, and then we look at the capacity, the max capacity, which is the maximum number of values that can fit into the string builder. And then finally we're going to look at the default length. Then we're going to use the append method to add on the word visualstudio.net to the end of our existing string builder. So it should say now, learn visualstudio.net. We're going to see how that affects the capacity. It shouldn't touch the max capacity at all. And then, how it affects the length. So I'm going to go ahead and click Run. I'm going to click my button. Okay, to start off with, capacity is 16, and our length is 5. Okay, so learn is only 5 characters, and we have space for, what, 11 more characters. Now what I'm going to do in code is add the visualstudio.net part, and we see the capacity jumped up, even though the length is only 21. Let's scroll down and take a look at some of the neat things that you can do with the string builder in terms of string manipulation without having the guilt of knowing behind the scenes there's a bunch of string objects being strewn about in memory. The first one is just inserting. You can pick a position within the string. Let's say the start of the 5th character and insert the word inserted. And we'll see what that comes out to look like. Then you can also use this remove function, which basically starts at a given character and then removes the next following, in this case 8 values from the string. And then we have this replace function, which looks for one word and replaces it with another. So we'll get rid of the visual in learnvisualstudio.net and replace it with the word audio. Let's go ahead and run it now. And we'll just quickly go past all the message boxes from the previous example. I blew past the first one, which was inserted. Now we've removed it. And then after the replace, learn audiostudio.net. So keep this tip in your back pocket. You've probably heard about the string builder class before. It's in every article that I've seen. It talks about the dangers of the string builder, but I haven't read a whole lot about this capacity issue, and so you want to be cognizant that this exists and that you don't want to use this willy-nilly. So that's today's tip. The source code for this tip is available to gold members. Becoming a gold member means that you have access to every video that we've ever created on this site, which amounts to over 40 hours of video, plus the source code for most of the videos. So I hope this tip was helpful. Come back Monday for another .NET video tip, and I wish you an exception-free day.